Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to The Conscious View. I am Tamara, also known as Shine Bright Earthling on Instagram, and this is my beautiful co-star, sis-star, co-creator of The Conscious View, Ogana, all the way from Saudi Arabia. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, world. It's so beautiful to keep connecting with you. We are loving this flow of episodes, and I really am excited to hear from you. Let us know how you like it.
Yeah, I've been actually getting a few DMs here and there, just offering support, and people have really just been enjoying what we're doing. So I am excited to continue on with our series, The Spiritual Toolbox. This week's episode is going to be about mindfulness and the importance of it. And as you read in the description, what we wrote down is this isn't a tool that you just pull out of your toolbox in times of need. Mindfulness has to become a tool that you are constantly using all the time on this spiritual journey. So, Gana, tell me how important mindfulness is to you, and maybe give us a little description of what mindfulness is.
And it's really funny. I would say that it's called mindfulness, but it's defined as stopping the thoughts, like not being attached to the thoughts and that every thought and every idea that comes to your to your mind. So it's more like soulfulness or like emptiness, but it's Bobby, like just everyone says it's mindfulness. It's like being in like keeping your mind in check,
Yeah.
keeping your mind just clear, and remembering that you're not just a logic and a mind. You're a body, you're a soul, you're a heart. You have these feelings. There's like all the just being aware. That's the more appropriate, I feel, description. Awareness, practicing awareness in our life, always being aware. And awareness is not just connected to the mind. It's actually a quality of the soul.
Right. And if I could further that a little bit, I think what you were trying to point out is a lot of times in the society that we live in, we function on autopilot. You get up, you brush your teeth. It's just like the same thing all the time. And usually when you're stuck in autopilot, your mind is always on a future moment. It's not on the moment right now. So while you're brushing your teeth, you're thinking, oh, I got to drive the kids to school. Oh, I got to make supper. I got to stop at the grocery store. I got to pay bills. So mindfulness for me, as I understand it, is being aware of the moment and being truly present in it. So let's continue with the example of brushing your teeth. Being mindful to me, which is also a really good way to practice manifestation and magic, is being present in the moment. So when you're brushing your teeth, are you thinking about why you're brushing your teeth? Why do you brush your teeth? When you're sitting there thinking, I brush my teeth so that I can maintain oral health, so I don't get sick, so that my teeth are shiny and whatever, then those things manifest. But when you're just kind of on autopilot and you're thinking of other things, you're not truly being in the moment and therefore not being effective of your moment. So something that I'm going to relate back to the practice of magic is this is something witches have practiced for a long time. I know that term might make some people uncomfortable, but just, bear with me for a moment. But witches, brooms and stuff, they've always been very aware of being mindful in the moment and being intentional with what you're doing. So when you're sweeping, you're not just sweeping to clean up, you're sweeping to get rid of negative energy. You're getting rid of the stagnant dust and everything, all of the dirt, but in a way that's going to affect the energetic space. So when you really are practicing that, you can up your game of manifestation and magic, however you want to put it, because you can consciously be intentionally calling into your reality what you want. So that's how I understand mindfulness, is just like being present of what you're doing right at that moment so that it can be more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's whenever we bring, as you said, like whenever we bring our wholeness, that's what I feel like the soul is. It's just the wholeness of who we are. We bring like all of our attention, all of our presence in that moment, whatever we do. That becomes it brings like a certain quality, which is, it feels like magic. Like literally, you can enjoy anything in life. It just looks so different a simple like sip of water, sip of tea, um, a simple like a conversation that you have when you're present with all of your heart and your soul, and you're just there, as you said, intention, like I'm here, I'm right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so, it's a simple thing, but it's magical. Like really, it feels like you're living in a magical, like,
Yes.
way of like your like life itself becomes like, wow, it's life. It's not just okay, that's life. It's no, it becomes life.
Yes, I love how you brought attention to that, because to become a powerful manifestator, you have to really be in the attitude of gratitude. We have all heard this phrase before, attitude of gratitude. But to
Yeah.
get into that attitude of gratitude, it is about being mindful. Because when you're
Mhm.
mindful in the moment, like for example, dishes. Like dishes is something I don't enjoy, but I've
Oh.
trained myself to be in the moment when I'm washing those dishes and just like kind of reflecting on, oh, I get to wash these dishes. I have clean running water. How lucky am I to have clean running water? How lucky am I to be able to provide food for my family, that I have all these dishes to do? So when you can practice being mindful in the moment, that's when you really truly can realize the beauty of life. That's when you can realize your privileges, your blessings, and not your stressors. Because when you're not in the moment and you're living in your head and you're on autopilot, guaranteed you are stressed. You are
Mhm.
thinking about all these other things. And truly, the future hasn't happened. The past is gone. All you have is this moment. And in order to be truly happy, it's about embracing that moment, not dreaming about what will be, but realizing what you have in that moment. And that is what's made my life completely magical, I find, is that mindfulness.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so beautiful what you said. I'm just like also being present right now and taking in everything that you said, and I'm feeling like it's something that will happen if you keep practicing mindfulness. Just like you're talking right now, but I'm not just aware of the words that you're speaking, Tamara, but I'm feeling you. I'm feeling your passion, and I'm feeling like okay, we're recording right now. This episode is gonna go live later on. Some people are gonna receive it, and I'm feeling all of this connection, like how amazing it is that we are there for each other, and how like it's like the complete circle of like how passion comes out and then it comes back in when people get like happy for you, or like press like that like button or whatever. It's just like it's all it's not the depth of life, it becomes, you become aware of the depth and the meaningfulness of everything. Like you can feel the energy. You can be, as you said, like you can become a fat manifester, but more importantly, you can become your own healer. Like
Mm.
before manifesting everything beautiful, to become more beautiful and extra in our lives, the basic thing is like we become our own healers. And I struggled with depression, and one of the main things that helped me is to practice mindfulness.
Absolutely. And I think that that really goes for people who suffer from anxiety as well. I have
Mm.
had both. And I realized that my anxiety was definitely because I was in my head. I was stressed. I wasn't being mindful of the moment. I was trying to be mindful of future moments instead of dealing with what was now. I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to deal with all these things. And being in the moment is one of the methods that I used to use before spirituality, was being in the moment, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like in psychology and stuff, they try to teach you to come back into the room, get out of your head. So like, what are 5 things in the room that you can smell, taste, touch, just to bring you
Oh.
into the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting that, as the spiritual community, this is something that we just practice ritualistically, habitually
Mm-hmm.
every day. But even psychology and stuff are starting to realize that not being in the moment is what causes a lot of depression and anxiety. I mean, I think we've all heard that saying, if you're living in the past, you're depressed. If you're living in the future, you're anxious, right? So
Mm,
finding
yeah.
that beautiful homeostasis of being content, and that's where true happiness comes from, is being content where you are at that moment, comes through the practice of mindfulness. And it does become very habitual. Like it becomes just like breathing. Like at first it can become very hard, but that's how you can remove the veil from your eyes of negativity. When we grow up in a society that teaches us that we should focus on the negatives and always be trying to achieve something more, we forget about the moment, and we have to retrain. It really is about retraining. But I remember when I started to be really mindful, where things just got brighter and more beautiful, and it was just like a veil was lifted off my eyes, and I was able to see past all this negativity filter that was put there by social conditioning, and just like, wow, like, look at this flower. I'm not thinking about what kind of flower it is. I just want to enjoy the moment and recognize the beauty and the blessings of life. And it's become imperative. And I can tell when I'm not in the practice of mindfulness, that's when life gets a little bit harder and I struggle. If I'm trying to not be in the moment and trying to be in the future moment. For me, it's always the future moment. I don't often live in the past, but now it's definitely future. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that to comment on that, the fact that you brought the fact of happiness, gratitude, happiness, instead of like being caught up in other things. And every time, like you would see if you did your own research, mindfulness and happiness, like they always come hand in hand. Like if you want to be happy, like it's not even about making anything, but if you really want to truly live a happy life, you notice happy people are more like mindful people. They are aware of the beautiful harmony and the meaningfulness of life and the benevolence of life. Just like I said, like a while back when you were talking, I just felt your passion, and so I'm connected to you and on a and a heart level. I'm feeling you. I'm being affected by your feelings, and my heart is responding. It's not just my ears and my mind, but my heart is responding with you. And when your heart is responding, it's also like your whole body is like the your heart is beating like almost in sync with other people. When you let go of the when we are in habitual thinking autopilot, we're also in ego. That's another term. And when we are able to let go of that veil, as you said, like that ego, that's what the veil is, the ego. And then we just let go of it, and we realize, wow, we don't even need to do anything. It's just a matter of letting go of things, just letting it go, and just focusing on the moment right here, right now. And
that's
all there. All of the riches of life are right there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I wanted to say how beautiful it is that you've brought up, being present for somebody. So when we're being mindful, it really deepens our relationships with people, our interactions with people, truly being mindful in the moment where you're showing up, like you're there, you're not lost in your head, you're truly present, and you're not just taking in their words, like you said, you're taking in their energy. And that's where you can really get engaged in energetic reciprocal relations, is when you're truly present. But if you are listening to respond, if you are listening to fix somebody, if you're listening to give advice, you're not in the moment. You're in your head, and you can't truly be there for people. And that, I think, is something, especially light workers, I think on the beginning of their journey, is something that we struggle with, because we want to save the world. We have superhero complexes, and we're like, oh, I've got the answer for you. I've got the answer. Wrap up what you're saying, because I can fix you. Right. Yeah. And that is that's not, I don't want to say against mindfulness, but that is the opposite of mindfulness. Right. So when we talk in the spiritual community about holding space for people, it's about being present in the moment and opening up and allowing them to have the space, the time to say what they have to say without you imparting your interpretation. Being mindful is just witnessing and being without responding necessarily. I mean, of course, there's times too, but when you're truly interacting with somebody in a mindfulness space, you can truly feel it. Like, and when you get further on your spiritual path, you will notice when people are not doing that. Like you will, you will get in these conversations with people where they're just listening to respond, or they want to fix you or whatever. And we tend to shy away from those people. And I started to realize that when I had my superhero complex, when I wanted to save everybody, I was really pushing people away with not being mindful. You know, they would shut down. When you're not being mindful and authentic that you want to hold space for these people, they energetically will shut down. They won't want to share. They may not even know that they're doing it. And you may not know what you're doing wrong. You know, that's something that comes with practice and knowing when to speak and when not to, but being mindful also allows you to tap into the energy of the conversation. You know energetically when a conversation's done. You know energetically when it should start. You know when you should speak, when it's time to give advice, when it's time to give a hug or a touch or something. If you can slow down and be mindful to pay attention to what is going on during it. But a lot of people don't. And I think miscommunication, and that can go right back into Mercury retrograde. I think that's something that happens in Mercury retrograde is we forget our mindfulness. We really do try to figure out what's going on logically because it's all confused. And that's where a lot of the miscommunications come from, is not being mindful of the situation.
Yeah. As you said, like with the relationships, it's a big one. Presence. Whenever you are present, you're practicing presence, you are mindful. You can fix. I know for sure that is like key, that you can like be in any relationship, even with your enemies, even with like with the most difficult people, even if you like have a kid who's throwing tantrum, but instead of losing yourself in their you know, in their tantrum, you're just like holding space and you're like, okay, right now you are sad, you are angry. That's it. Be that, like express yourself, and having the awareness, like, you know, it's just a feeling, and having like that that acceptance of feelings, you know. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. I'm sitting with my feeling, with myself, and the more that I'm deeper with myself, accepting my own anger, my own fears, my own like shadow side, then I could really hold space for others. Like, okay, they're just being, like, they're not just this emotion. They will realize that soon, but I cannot like walk the walk for them. They have to go through their own emotions, and there's like intelligence to each emotion. There's a reason for it. There's a wisdom for it. Everything is happening exactly like it should be. And so you just like, yeah, there's this label of I should be a light worker, I should be a parent, I should be the wise one. They should not be an angry child, or like a difficult child. These are just labels that we think things should be. But if we just surrender all that, like let things be like as they are. And it's especially hard when you know, when there's a problem that comes to the picture, just like, you know, a kid, or like you see like people fighting, you see war going on, and or like your body is sick and you're like, I hate this. Why am I sick? You know, like you're fighting the thing, just like letting it
Yeah.
be.
I love that you keep bringing up awareness, because when we're mindful and in the moment, we can really be aware about our own feelings as well. Not only can you be tapped into what somebody's feeling, like when you're mindful, you can see where their emotions are building, when it might be time to step in and dissolve the situation, when it might be time to, you know, stop the situation. But when you're not mindful in the moment, not only can you not be aware of what they're feeling, or if they're escalating, or if they're depleting, you may not realize your own feelings. I think that is something that, especially in the Western world, we've shut off awareness of our own feelings until they get to a point where it just explodes. So when you're being aware in the moment, you can tune into yourself and realize like, oh, I'm starting to get a little worked up. Maybe this is time to pull out this spiritual tool or that spiritual tool. But when you are focused on autopilot and you are focused on all these things, you've got yourself in this crazy momentum that is like a ball of like dirt energy. Like it reminds me of like that Tasmanian devil that just goes through a room and just causes chaos.
Yeah.
That's what's going on within you when you're not aware. But when you're very aware and tuned in to the moment, you can be like, oh, I can feel that rising in me. It's time for me to step back. This is the time where you can actually learn to practice breathing. But if you're in the moment and allowing yourself to just get worked up, you're not going to have the awareness to be like, I need to stop and take some breaths. And this is how things can escalate and turn into arguments and disagreements and, you know, even fights, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you is that we become more intelligent. You just defined it and really described how which is a beautiful side effect of being mindful is happiness, and then the other thing is intelligence and self-healing also, because you're just literally, because you're not fighting, because you're not in resistance, you allow the energy, and you're with the intelligence of life itself, that you know that there's a wisdom. And okay, it's happening, and I know that life is just like, it happens like that. It has life is yin and yang. Everything that happens, you know, and it's going to end to begin with. And then also every toxin has an antitoxin to it, you know, an antidote to it. And so you become that antidote. Like, that's what we need in our lives right now. We need to become the antidote
to
the world full of toxicity, right?
Yes, that is beautiful. And I think that comes back to that new consciousness of this whole new earth. Being mindful is something that I think we are all moving towards as a society, a global society. We are learning to interact with each other differently. And mindfulness is one of those biggest practices, because especially in a capitalistic culture where individual success was heralded versus community success, we became very narcissistic society. We did. All of us are narcissistic on some level, but
reptilian.
Yes. And that's something we're supposed to transcend. But anyways, that's for a whole nother topic that we will talk about. We'll bring Josie Blackwell on for narcissism, because she's amazing. But it's that new earth that we're moving towards, being mindful of the moment. And it would be amazing to witness that this just be the norm, like the common social norm and moray that we function from. A place of mindfulness, there would be true peace and compassion and understanding. Because when you're being mindful, like, especially like, okay, let's bring up an example of, say you're in a heated debate with somebody and they're righteously angry, and maybe it's something deep about like race or something like that. When you're mindful, you can see the place that person's coming from and empathize with them. Like, maybe you don't get them. Maybe you're on opposing sides, but you can be on opposing sides and understand where that other person is coming from. But that comes from practicing mindfulness. If you're not mindful, all you're thinking about is why you're valid, right? So when you're mindful of the other person, you can see, oh my gosh, this person has experienced extreme oppression. This person has experienced abuse and trauma. And that's where they're coming from. It makes you able to deal with people in a compassionate and gentle way. And even when you're feeling like you have a surplus, send them energy to transmute that and to calm the energy of the situation. But if you're not mindfulness, you'll get caught up in the debate, and he'll escalate, and it'll just escalate until you're both feeling awful. Right?
Yeah.
So we practice mindfulness and we're aware of when people are escalating, when it's time to walk away. We can also make it less personal. So when people are interacting with us and we're being mindful, we can understand that they're not personally attacking you. They are coming from a particular place of hurt. Hurt people, hurt people. That is like my biggest mantra in life, is hurt people, hurt people. But if you're not mindful, you'll forget that. I forget that. I'm not. I forget that a lot.
Yeah, and that's why it's a whole practice, because it's something we have to keep on doing. Like, that's it. I decided to be a mindful person. I decided to live a mindful lifestyle, and it's a practice that needs to be you need to always come back to. It's not something that's like a certificate that someone would give you and say, hey, you are now mindful.
Yeah.
Congratulations. No.
And that goes back to like the whole thing that we always want to remind everybody is it's spiritual practice.
Practice, yes.
Perfect. And there are times where I am so mindful and my A game is here and I am manifesting and magic is flying everywhere and everything's good. And then maybe I don't feel so well. And then I fall behind and then I forget the mindfulness and I get all in a tizzy. And then I'll sit there, I'll be like, why am I so angry? Oh, right. Were you being mindful?
Yeah.
Were you being mindful, Tamara? Were you doing the practice? Nope. You know, another thing is aware of when you're not being mindful and gently reminding yourself, gently direct yourself to be. Don't punish yourself for not being mindful. Life does get busy. There's times where you can't be. Like, it's okay. Like, embrace that part, but just remember you can get back to it. And if you're finding yourself a little bit more depressed or anxious, or you're feeling a little bit more negative feelings, check in with yourself. Are you being mindful? Are you being in the moment? Are you present? And I'm gonna say I can guarantee that you're not. I can guarantee that you're living in your head and allowing ego to direct your actions and your thoughts and your being at that moment. But mindfulness it's a beautiful thing. I love the amount of detail of life that I take in.
Yeah, the depth of life, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. And I know that people are just like, oh, like, how do you find so much magic in your life? Like, how are you just so with everything? So I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to all these things that make life beautiful. And, you know, people who don't believe in magic and aren't looking for it will definitely not find it. That is,
I mean, they would have, God is good, and you would get glimpses of it, but it doesn't last. Like these, you know, we want to, at the end of the day, we know we can't be happy all the time. And even if we are mindful, you know, life is still going to happen. There are these different seasons, and the winter season is going to come in with the storms and the rain. But there's a rainbow after that, and if we get stuck of like cursing the rain, cursing the storms, we will not get the benefit, and you become more intelligent, and that's what I wanna say. Like, it gives you depth. Like, mindfulness gives you depth of like being able to enjoy the depth and meaning of life, and also you become this intelligent being because you just when you're in not allowing just your thoughts, your limited you know, your limited, as you said, we said, like, reptilian mind be the only thing that you have access to, but you expand your energy to life itself, and you become like intelligent as life itself. I mean, can you imagine how old life is? Like, life, it's like you. And then when you are relaxed and connected to this intelligence of life, when problems happen, disease happen in your body, for any problem that happens in the world, like, you can become more proactive. You can, because you're intelligent, you can find solutions and be more creative and bring these solutions. Yeah, instead of like perpetuating the habitual drama of life all the time.
Right. I want to go back and touch on something that you had said, because I absolutely agree with you. Just because you walk a spiritual path and just because you're mindful doesn't mean you're not going to feel what people have coined negative emotions. I don't like coining any emotions negative. We are human beings and we were given these emotions for a reason. But when you practice mindfulness and you experience something like anger or frustration, when you're mindful, you can actually figure out where the trigger of that was. When you become an adult, unfortunately, most of your triggers are going to relate back to something before, like even something your child has done, and you will relate it back to something. If you're mindful, you can take those alarms. Like, that's how I figure, like, frustration and anger, those things are telling you that there's something in your life that's not quite right. You're not at a level of homeostasis. There's something that needs to be adjusted. And when you're mindful, you don't just feel righteous about the anger, like, I'm mad because this happened. You can go, well, why am I mad? Why is this affecting me so much? Like, is this really a big deal, or is this a little deal? And you can actually go back and figure out, where it's all coming from, which can allow you to transmute that into something else and even go back and change your timelines if you can figure out that trigger. But if you're not mindful in the moment, you're going to get caught up and you're going to run with that anger and you're going to let it get out of control and not fix the actual root of the problem. You're going to fix the surface problem, and that is it. So on the spiritual path, you do get to a point where every little trigger, and they will happen, if you're mindful, you can transmute that, change timelines, change ancestral DNA karma, do all that beautiful, beautiful light work and shadow work. That's what shadow work is, ladies and gentlemen, right there is being very mindful. Oh, I just got like so many goosebumps from that. That's truly what shadow work is realizing when your shadows come up, why, and going back and fixing them and realizing that, you know what, your child spilling the milk, you're not angry about that. You're probably angry about the time that you were punished and shamed for spilling milk. That's just an example. But that is usually, like, I'm finding, especially as a parent, when I get angry at my child or frustrated, if I'm mindful and I look back and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm not even mad at him. I'm mad at myself, or I'm mad at my mom, or I'm mad at like the shame that I had.
Perpetuating things.
Yes. So that is the other thing. Like, just because you're mindful doesn't mean it's going to be all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. You know, like, that's not life. Life has this gorgeous dark side to it, but being mindful is what will allow you to appreciate the shadow work.
And I love that. It's a perfect moment to bring another term that is always also coined with mindfulness, and it's detachment, being detached from situations, which I have, like, I'm on the fence of with the word detachment, because I think it's kind of like strengthening. Sometimes people like forget what the true meaning of it is, and it becomes ego. Like, I want to be detached from everything, but the truth is, like, that's, you know, the ego wants to be its own thing, but the true spiritual person knows that everything is connected, and you cannot run away from your shadows, as you said, and we need more integration. But detachment really what it means is that it's a lot like mindful, like a quality and a side effect of mindfulness, that you're not you have like you're like, as if this over soul awareness, you're not caught up with things. Things are happening. You know that you have part in that, but you're not putting too much weight on things like, oh my gosh, anger, that's it, it's the end of the world now, like it's doomsday. It's about like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Anger is you don't like tell yourself, I'm an angry person. You detach. It's just a feeling. I'm just a human having, you know, a spiritual being having a human experience, going through this emotional responses of what life is. And it's not me being angry or me being like a terrible person. I'm experiencing this energy, if it's shadow or if it's light. And even like the good times, they become so much more golden, because you are aware that things are not, you know, there's an impermanence to life. Life is going to keep on going, and I can't hold that beautiful moment for too long. It's a blessing, it's beautiful, I will love it and honor it, but I'm not going to hold it on in an obsessed way.
I absolutely love how you brought attention to, I am not an angry person. That I would, how do you feel about this? I think that our next episode should be about how we speak to ourselves in our minds, how we speak to others, word magic, because word magic and how we speak, those tiny little tweaks to what you're saying can change your life. Like, hugely change your life. And I think that is one of the most important parts. Like, for me, that would be a foundational pillar of my spiritual toolbox, is how I arrange words, how I use them, and how they affect me, and becoming really mindful about how you're speaking in your head, in your heart, out your mouth. I think that would be a beautiful, beautiful episode for next week. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Definitely. I think it's going to save people like lifetimes if you can practice that lifetimes
Practice and like it,
into enlightenment.
yes, and it can fast track you, like accelerate your
Yeah.
abilities, accelerate your growth and your evolution with simple little tweaks. It's
Mhm.
not I'm not going to say it's super easy peasy, because these are
Yeah.
words and phrases that you've been using your entire life.
Hmm.
So they can take a little bit of work, but once you practice them, it's amazing. So I think for sure next week we are going to talk about word magic. And
Spelling.
yes, I'm very excited about that. I want to extend, as always, a soul hug, heart hug to you for
Oh,
joining me, taking time out of your busy day to chit chat with me, vibe with me, and share and spread the love and light as we all march towards this new earth. Um, I'm going to close this off with saying I am Tamara. You can find me under Shine Bright Earthling on Instagram, as well as Paradigm Shift Central. And Ogana, why don't you close it off? Tell us a little bit about you and the services that you offer.
I'm just so happy with this episode. I hope that it helps you guys. And I'm at Organa on Instagram. I have an updated YouTube channel that you can also check, and some podcasts here and there. If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, you can do readings, energy readings. I can guide you in your self-healing, or we can have some coaching, like really transformative live coaching sessions together. And you can find everything in the links in the description.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for this moment. This has been a beautiful, beautiful episode.
It has been, and I want to say, I want to send a little bit of an apology. We haven't been including our links down below in the description box. We are going to tighten up our acts on that a little bit so that you guys can follow us and find us in our other social media platforms. I do want to express gratitude for you guys to you joined us and you sat here all the way through. I hope that you guys found some value. If you have any questions about mindfulness, how you can make it easy for you, DM us. You can DM us here. You can leave a comment down below. You can find us on our Instagram. We are always open for questions, suggestions for topics as well. We have a lot of topics, but we also want to reach out to the audience and talk about things that are going on with you in particular. My
Let us know what
Instagram,
you need.
yeah, let us know what you need, because we can adapt our schedule programming for whatever you guys are experiencing. That is something that I try to do on my Instagram in particular, is watch for the common themes that people are going through during the week, and I will try to post things in relation to what I'm witnessing around me, just to help people navigate through their daily lives on this crazy spiritual journey. But we see you. We see that the struggle is so real sometimes, but we also see the love and the light that we're building as we all walk together, learn together, and evolve towards this new earth. So thank you so much again. Thank you, Ogana. Thanks for joining us. Yes, shine bright, everybody. We love you, and we'll see you next time.